So I was going to talk. Yeah? I swear, they wait until I start a video to need something. Let's talk about this week. I really wish I didn't give up drinking. What's up, bookworms? Mike here to talk about another weekly update, and for the channel, the last update for May. And I think you might say, Mike, you just did one of these on Monday. Well, I'm trying to get it back on the schedule for Friday, so I'm just kind of course correct myself. So it might be a little more brief than usual, but you know what? I always say that, and then these videos always end up being, 18 to 20 minutes long. Anyway, so before we get started, I want to kind of do a little housekeeping here and talk about the subscriber count. Guys, we are pushing towards 12,000 subscribers. That's awesome. Again, it isn't anything I kind of always want to monitor closely. I just like to mention it in the weekly updates to kind of see, if the growth's still happening or if we're kind of stumbling. Because I feel like eventually this is going to top out. I don't know. We shall see or whatever. But I do have an internal goal by my birthday. That's August 4th, in case you want to drop me a line. August 4th, my goal is 15,000. So with the current data as it is, we should be able to make that. But again, like I said, I feel like one day this is just going to kind of hit a ceiling. But, a lot of people tell me that's not the case. But we'll see. We'll see. Also, guys, I kind of want to tell you about the Discord. I've kind of mentioned it briefly a lot, but the Discord is growing every day. We're almost up at 600 users now, and I think it's just a wonderful community. And I think that since the channel has gotten a little more successful, it's gotten a little harder for me to actually be able to keep in touch with you guys as easily as before. So I feel like that's the best way to contact me directly if you want to, is go to the Discord, because I feel like it's a much easier way. You can tag me on there and I'll see it. If you just leave a comment on one of the videos, I still would appreciate if you do that. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I think the best way to get a hold of me is drop in the Discord. And as always, guys, I want to mention the Patreon. If you want to help the channel out, that's great. If not, no big deal. Nothing's going to change. You just get different perks, and you can drop onto the Patreon page there to see what those perks are. But let's go ahead and talk about this week. You guys know I've been reading Faithful in the Fallen. Well, last night I stayed up late and I finished Ruin. And it's the biggest dad joke of all time, but the ending of this book ruined me. It was brilliant. It was brutal. It was crushing. It was amazing. It was heartbreaking. It was just stellar. Stellar. I cannot say enough about this series, and I feel like I'm so late to this dance because this series was completed a few years back, and now I've only got one left, and I'm devastated about that. But speaking of devastated, the ending of this was just so much that I need a day or three before I start, Wrath up there. That's the last book in the series. Yeah, I talked about, I did a review, a non-spoiler review for the first two books in the series. I'll put that up here for you. And what I said in that is that John Gwynne will emotionally assassinate you more than once. Child's play compared to the ending of this book. He's going to devastate you in ways that I feel like only George R.R. Martin has up to this point for an author. So yeah, if that isn't a good selling point for you for this series, I really don't know what is. I think it's a great series for everyone. I mentioned on that review, I don't want to spill my drink here, so I'm going to put it right there. All right, you get a drink around books and you get all paranoid. But yeah, I talked enough in that about what you should, why you should read that series if you haven't. But it's going to be a few days before I start the final book in there. Partly because, like I said, it was it destroyed me, but also because I don't want it to end. I am at the end of that 4-book series. Yes, there is 3 books in that same universe. They take place with different characters and years later. But yeah, it really is that good that it's just reached the point where I don't want it to end. And I know that sounds like a line, but it's very, very true. So guys, this is an incredible series. Please pick it up, check it out. Next up, I told you guys that I started Alloy of Law last week. I finished it. Finished it this morning. Man, I cannot tell you how delightfully surprised I am about this book. I put off Era 2 of Mistborn for so long because I think what I said in my Mistborn reviews, which by the way, I did my Hero of Ages review for you finally over here. I don't know if it met your expectations or it was worth the wait, but it did happen. But that's the last of my spoiler reviews, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But I think I've heard for so long that Era 2 was just like okay because it was so different. And after I started reading, I realized that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be different. I felt like the way that the original trilogy ended was satisfying, and I didn't need to see another take from the same, kind of like what he did with Emperor's Soul to Elantris. I didn't need that. I didn't need to see the same take on a different part of the globe. So this moving forward in time to where those people are just like, basically myths at this point, that's fantastic. And if I had a selling point for this book, which I'll probably repeat when I do my review for it sometime next week, is Joss Whedon's Firefly with allomancy in it. And no spaceships. Obviously there's no spaceships, but maybe they'll get there eventually. I've heard that Arrow 4, I believe, or 3, he wants to go to space with Hoyd, which is awesome. But this was a very pleasant surprise. I had a blast with this, and I can't wait to keep going. I think the banter between Wax and Wayne is top freaking notch. I love it. Wayne is just already one of my favorite Cosmere characters, and I'll talk more in that review for when it comes up. But gosh, man, I like I said, it was a pleasant surprise, and it was a quick read. I mean, for Sanderson, that's pretty small. You could have read this in a few days or whatever, but I was still trying to work on John Gwynn and other things. The other things, another reason that I think I'm going to kind of wait on Wrath or whatever is because it's full speed ahead now for Dresden Files. I've got 6 weeks before Peace Talks comes out. I only read the first chapter of Changes, and I did that on the channel. But yeah, I've got, like I said, 4 books in 6 weeks to do here, so I'm gonna put the pedal to the metal on this. I had some people ask me about the ARC request that I had for this. It was granted, but here's what I know: there is an author that's that is a friend of the channel that I've mentioned before. I was asking him about, because he's wrote a book that has. I'm like, do you know when that's coming out? He's like, look, here's the thing: the publishers are full on, and based out of New York, are full on lockdown still. So that might be why you're not hearing anything from Random House anymore. So maybe that's what happened. I emailed again this morning to inquire, didn't hear nothing. So I'm just going to assume that I'm getting Peace Talks at the same time as you guys. So that's okay. That's okay, because like I said, I'm going to have to do 4 of these in 6 weeks, which isn't a real problem. As you know, they are very quick reads or whatever, and everybody says it changes once you get going. I can be able to stop. In fact, I've had people just blown away that I was able to read the first chapter and then stop. It's like, well, because I had 2 other books I was trying to kill off first. But yeah, that will be starting probably after I upload this. I'll be starting on that and be knocking out Changes probably in a couple of days. What else? I kind of had a breakthrough with Orbit, though. I talked about Penguin Random House there, and ARC request is a friend of the channel. I don't want to say their name because I don't want them getting bombarded for requests to do the same. I was having trouble breaking through with Orbit, getting in touch with them about ARC requests. And this person kind of led me in the right direction, and they contacted me this morning and said they were going to put me on their list, and they're going to be sending me Fires of Vengeance, which, if you don't know, is Rage of Dragons Part 2 by Evan Winter. We did the read-along on the channel. It was a lot of fun. So if this gets in my hand, I got approved for the Peace Talks arc and now Crickets. However, Orbit's based out of Tennessee, not New York, so maybe they'll be able to get things here or not. The agent emailed me this morning and said that they could send me a physical copy or a copy on NetGalley. I said either would do. That would be great. So I might be kind of filtering that in if that does get here, because I definitely want to read that, not only because I want to be able to review it for you guys, but also because that first book was very, very good, and that means I don't have to wait until November, which would be just super. So it's great to be able to get through with Orbit, because I don't know about you guys, but in the States, Orbit is it for sci-fi fantasy. They are like the top publisher of sci-fi and fantasy. They include some guy named Joe Abercrombie that I'm a big fan of. So it's very, very exciting. I hope it actually comes through this time. And again, I just want to thank that person who led me in the right direction to get on the correct channels and get in contact with those who could make this happen. You are awesome, my friend. Let's keep going here. I made a couple of trips to the bookstore this week. The bookstores are open. I don't know about you guys. In Texas, most things are open again. The first trip wasn't so bad. Second trip, wow, talk about a big hit. And that's got me. I'm going to be doing my May 2020 book haul sometime next week, because it's a big one. It's a big one, and it's as always, it's never a flex. This is me talking to you about my collecting problem and letting you see some of these books in case you have interest in getting them and you want to see what they look like. Because if you're like me, sometimes you want your book covers to match. You want to know what size they are, things like that. So that's the whole reason I do the book haul videos. But yeah, it's got me worried that yeah, you're going to run out of shelf space again. But it was a big hit, and I think it was just I didn't realize how much I needed bookstores until I couldn't go to them anymore. Shopping online is fun and all, but there's nothing like putting that book in your hand and looking at it and feeling it. And makes you may sound a little weird, but you are on a book channel. It's the smell of it is something else, right? But that's about it for book stuff. Wait, no, there is one more thing. Hang on. I am continuing my Stephen King stuff next week. Into the Multiverse #6. June is Firestarter. This is a book I feel like is another one that kind of gets lost. I talked about Dead Zone getting lost in the shuffle. This one just seems like it kind of got forgotten. And I've even had a couple people tell me that, oh, I can never really get into that one. And I'm like, well, did you like Stranger Things? I'm like, well, yeah. I'm like, well, Stranger Things took all the best stuff from this. 11 was called Charlie the first time. The the Hawkins Lab was called The Shop. A lot of the things I will talk about that will be about Stranger Things and Firestarter's influence on Stranger Things. So be on the lookout for that. I'm excited to talk about it. As always, I'm always excited to talk about Stephen King. I know it is still kind of a niche thing on the channel, but to me, this is something I do for you, but also for me. Because a lot of things that I have a lot of people tell me that, oh, you're only doing that because viewers want you to, or you need the traffic. Sure, you don't want to do a bunch of videos that's going to get no traffic. You know, that'll hurt your algorithm. Don't get me wrong here. I'm not just going to do that. But you know what? If I'm going to do stuff that gets lighter traffic than usual, it's going to be Stephen King stuff, because that's my favorite author of all time. So I'm going to keep doing the Stephen King stuff. And I hope you guys, because it is non-spoiler, I hope you guys will check the stuff out and eventually get into reading more Stephen King. That's the whole point behind the Into the Multiverse, as well as connecting all those dots in his shared universe. You know, something else I'm considering, something that may seem a little stupid to some people. The two most popular videos on my channel are when I talked about getting a Kindle Paperwhite. And I love it. I love this little thing. It's great. I said in that checkup review where I did 6 months later about how I took this thing on that vacation, and it was just like a godsend because, you know, it fits in your pocket. You can take it with you everywhere. You're standing in line, no big deal. You can pop it out and look at it. And it's been something that's been wonderful. My wife is still working off of, by the way, she read Red Rising, the first book, in about a day and a half. And she loved it. So I'm ecstatic that she's reading Red Rising, because that's my series, right? But anyhow, she's still going off of a 2009 Nook e-ink. Does anybody even remember what those are? Anyhow, so I thought it might be time for her to upgrade. But she's also the type, she'd still be using a VCR if she ever met me, basically. She will ride something that is working fine for her until it dies. And I respect that. Me, I'm like, I like to kind of stay on the cutting edge of technology. After a while, I like to let the price come down a little bit. Well, I have thought about it, and I'm thinking about upgrading to a Kindle Oasis and then gifting her my Paperwhite. Or, say I get the Kindle Oasis and I don't like it very much, I'll keep the Paperwhite and I'll let her have the Oasis. She likes live buttons anyway. So it's something that I'm thinking about, but I kind of just want to open up the forum to you guys and say, if you guys got an Oasis, what do you think about it as compared to a Paperwhite? Because I said one of the things I like the most is being able to hold this with one hand. If I go to a Paperwhite, it's going to be back to two hands again. I'm like, why am I not just reading a real book? I don't know. It's just something to think about. I haven't pulled the trigger yet, but I did think, okay, I think that talking about making that upgrade to the Oasis would probably be a video that people are interested in, since those other two videos were in almost nearing 30,000 views each. So maybe people would be interested in seeing that are curious, like I am, about upgrading from the Paperwhite to the Oasis, or if it's much of an upgrade at all. You know, and I know that these are just awful problems to have, because it's the thing is, it's like the Oasis is like 2.5 times what this one costs. So it's I'm going to write it off as a business expense, right? At least that's my excuse. I don't know. I still haven't decided if I'm going to do it. But yeah, if you guys drop in the comments, please let me know if you have an Oasis, if you've used it, a Paperwhite, what do you think the differences are? Besides going swimming, because I don't know about you, I don't spend a lot of time swimming and reading at the same time. So that's not really a thing for me. But a lot of people say that the warm lighting really does make a difference, and that extra inch of space makes it more like reading a book. Because I do know when I'm reading this, sometimes I'm like, because I make the font so big, because my eyes are suckier probably than yours, and I don't want to wear reading glasses anymore. I've already said this thing helped me a ton with my eye strain, but it would be nice to have kind of just that extra space to reset to the next line. This is just a personal quirk there. Outside of books, we watched a movie for Memorial Day. We always watch something about the American military as like a thank you. And I know that's like a big deal. To us, it's just kind of like a little tradition that we've had. And this year we picked Midway by Roland Emmerich. And I was blown away when I found out that this movie was independently funded because no studio wanted to give them the money for it. This is an amazingly beautiful cinematic movie. I mean, the special effects in this are incredible. This is every bit the movie that I wanted Pearl Harbor to be when it came out 20 years ago before Michael Bay did his love triangle thing. Yeah, there's no love triangle in this. This is every bit that movie that I wanted to see. And I was just blown away that I didn't hear more about it. Just incredible, incredible movie. And regardless of what country you're from or anything like that, I don't know how people outside of the States feel about watching movies about American military. Like, I watched Dunkirk and I enjoyed it, and that wasn't about the American military, so I just like war movies. I mean, two previous generations of mine fought in wars, so I'm always going to be interested in war movies. So that's not something that's always going to be on my radar. Most guys are, but what I think I respected about the most was that it never at any point made it look like the USA is like super good guy and Japan is super bad guy. I mean, it isn't afraid to flex that American muscle a little bit and be like, you know what, we're US and we're proud of it. Kiss my ass, It's never like shying away from that like a lot of Hollywood stuff does now. But it's never ever apologizing for America, but it also is very respectful to Japan and shows their point of view that they weren't just monsters. And I really appreciated that. I liked that it was respectful to both sides. It was very well done. Very, very, very highly recommended. Even if you just want to see some really awesome World War II dogfights, I think it'll be right up your alley. Moving on, did you guys hear that Henry Cavill is coming back as Superman? I talked last week about the Snyder cut of the Justice League, and I mentioned in that I loved Man of Steel. I feel like that is a movie that is so polarizing. People either love it or hate it, and will count me in the group that loves it. I thought Man of Steel was wonderful. Yeah, it could have been a little brighter, but overall, I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful thing. And the biggest thing I said was I felt like Henry Cavill, home run as Clark Kent. I thought he was brilliantly cast. That was a perfect pick. He looked like the comic book. He really did. And when he was going to walk away, I was just like, you guys just make mistake after mistake after mistake. Since this AT&T acquisition, it seems like they're trying to fix a lot of their F-ups. So I don't know what the deal was with Cavill being ready to walk away. I think, he had just had that big hit with Mission Impossible. The Witcher obviously has made him a household name at this point. So I thought maybe he's just trying to leverage this into Man of Steel 2. And I hope that's what happened. All these reports right now are saying he's not confirmed to be in anything else in Black Adam or whatever. I'm hoping that he uses this to leverage into Man of Steel 2, because I would love nothing more to see Man of Steel 2, not necessarily directed by Zack Snyder, but versus Brainiac. I think that is the Superman villain that we need to see on screen. I think it could be really well done. Kind of where Whedon dropped the ball with Ultron in Age of Ultron Avengers 2. I think that they could really do a better job on screen with Brainiac. So that would be really, really my wheelhouse. But right now they're saying nobody knows anything. Nobody knows anything, but all the dirt sheets are saying like, oh, well, he's just going to be like the MCU's version of the Hulk, where he's in everybody else's movie. This is freaking Superman, okay? One of the most Batman, Superman, and Spider-Man, 3 most popular superheroes of all time. Check the stats. It's true. You may say like, oh, well, I like Iron Man. Yeah, you may like Iron Man. I like Iron Man. I'm just saying that is the 3 most popular superheroes of all time. Superman is not an add-on. Give him a sequel. Give him a sequel. Henry Cavill is a draw right now. Give him a sequel. All right. That's it. Last thing I'm going to talk about is, you guys ever watch Cobra Kai? One thing I hated for a while there was where they were doing long sequels years later than when the movies came out, like Crystal Skull, or they were doing like a remake of an old TV show like 21 Jump Street or something like that, which is actually kind of funny. But anyway, you know what I mean. I didn't like that trend they were doing for a while. So when they said, oh, we're going to be doing Cobra Kai, and it's basically going to be like the sequel to Karate Kid, and I'm like, Jesus, you guys. And then it came out, and it was fantastic. I thought this is the perfect way to do the passing the torch from the old generation to new, while being respectful to those legacy characters. I think that Johnny and Daniel have such a huge part on the show, but a lot of the focus is on the younger kids. And it's just, God, it's so good. And it's only had 2 seasons now, and William Zabka has just hit a home run in both of these seasons. Well, anyway, season 3 got delayed because of the virus that shall not be named. You know this. And now there's been like some thing going on about how it's going to be leaving YouTube as a YouTube original series. And it's looking for a new home, and Netflix and Hulu are kind of like in a bidding war for it. Look, I don't care who gets it as long as we get season 3, you know, because it's going to have Elizabeth Shue in it. So this is basically going to be like the sequel to Karate Kid. You know, if you're like me, you don't really count the sequels, the sequel to Karate Kid, even though it's had stuff with 2 and 3. Guys, if you loved Karate Kid, please watch Cobra Kai. You will have a blast. I mean, it even has Kreese back in it. No Mercy? Cobra Kai, never say die, man. It's good stuff. So I definitely recommend you check that out. But I want season 3 sooner than later, so I hope that they're getting back to production soon. Because, yeah, season 2 ended with a humongous cliffhanger. But, yeah, Zabka proves that Barney Stinson on How I Met Your Mother was right, is that Daniel was the villain of Karate Kid. So that's it, guys. What is up with you? What are you watching? What are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you playing? What are you going to do? Hit me in the comments, guys. Let me know, and have yourselves a great weekend.